Hello to all the debt warriors out there, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie Fata. Today, I'm going to be talking about how you can take advantage of having more free time during the COVID-19 pandemic and use this time to up your skill set. Later in the podcast, I'll be joined by Kelly Gray, a staffing recruiter and a millennial. Kelly and I will discuss the importance of special skills, what skills are worth your while, and how you can make the most of your quarantine time to enhance your resume. In normalcy, life gets busy and you tend to put a lot of things on the back burner. Now that we're quarantined, you can work on taking those things off the back burner and start taking time to do them. Are you finding yourself with more time during the COVID-19 crisis? Take advantage of free or low-cost courses that are being offered online. This is a great time to enhance your special skills on your resume. Having knowledge and learning a second language is a skill that can go the distance. Aside from language, you can also look into courses in business, art, technology, education, or design. There are a plethora of different courses you can take. If you're already in a certain field and you want to enhance your current skill, you can do that. If you want to go into a completely different direction and find a course unrelated to your current field, go for it. There are endless possibilities when it comes to enhancing your skill set. So make the most of your downtime and come out of quarantine with different skills that you would normally not have time to learn. Looking for a place to enroll some online courses that are free or reasonably priced? LinkedIn Learning, Future Learn, and edX are 3 great places to start. These 3 sites offer a variety of different courses to look into. I'll put all the information for these 3 sites in the podcast description. Because of the current climate and the pandemic that's happening, people might not have the drive to do anything right now. Instead of binge watching a different show every week during the pandemic, make the most of your downtime and thrive. I was able to have a chat with Kelly Gray, our guest today, who is an assigned senior recruiter. Kelly sees resumes all the time, and she's a pro at knowing what special skills are needed to help make your resume stand out. Online courses aren't always for everyone. If you can't see yourself focusing on an online course during this time, don't worry, because Kelly and I also chat about what personal development you can be doing while in quarantine to help make yourself stand out. Now, let's get to my chat with Kelly, who gives her take on what to do with your quarantine time and how to make yourself stand out to recruiters. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Hey, Katie. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk about this topic. I thought this would be a good topic for the podcast right now because people seem to have a lot more time on their hands, and rather than just sitting around doing nothing, it would be a good time for people to update their resumes and maybe enhance a special skill and apply for jobs, even maybe if they're not happy where they are. And I thought you'd be the perfect person to talk to. So I'm just going to kind of get into talking about asking you about, like, maybe we'll start with cover letters. So how important is a cover letter, and what should a person include in their cover letter?
Awesome, for sure. So technically, we, in like the staffing agencies, we don't really go by cover letters too often. Okay. Definitely so important if you're independently applying for a job, especially if you're in like a niche, like you have a niche title or kind of have a different background that is harder to explain. So that's when it's perfect to dive into a cover letter. Like, hey, this is exactly what I'm doing in this role. Like a lot more information than what you would put in your resume, and a little bit more about yourself. Like, hey, this is me and this is what I do, and like this is what I'm looking to do. I think I'd be a great or a fit for your organization, because it's a great way to definitely I guess that could be your pre-round interview is your cover letter. So like making sure it's up to date and it's accurate for each job you apply to. It's definitely important.
Yeah, definitely. And so basically, like a resume might be a little bit more important than the cover letter.
I always say, yeah, invest most of your time in your resume. A lot of
Mm.
times people don't even look at your cover letter, they're going to flip through it. I think your resume is most important, especially your objective. A lot of times people, you see one objective online that's pretty broad and you're like, hey, let me use it. That sounds good. But no, definitely cater that more towards your experience and exactly what you're looking for in a role.
That's a good idea because also like I feel like some people kind of even forget to put an objective on their resume. So how does someone even go about writing their resume with
Mm-hmm.
adding an objective? Like how far do they need to list their jobs? Like what's important to highlight? Just all that.
Yeah, so starting off there, like especially when I was about to graduate college and didn't really have a resume, like I had jobs in the past, but like what could I really fit into a resume? Where do I even begin? So like my first resume does not have an objective, doesn't have a summary, doesn't have any of that. It just kind of hops into exactly what I've been doing over the past couple of years. So more so be able to focus on that. I think the best way to start out is like summary or objective, like your name and information, summary and objective, and diving right into your skills right after. Especially if you're more on the entry level side, like your first job is going to be the hardest one to find. So that being said, having a clear and concise resume could definitely help you out. Let me see. What was the other questions there? Sorry.
No problem. So like how far back do you need to list your jobs and like what is exactly important for each job that you want to highlight on your resume?
Yeah, for sure. Listing of jobs, it kind of varies by what role you're applying for. So like always put your most like relevant information or like your most relevant experience out there. I've had more experienced candidates leave out years worth of experience because it wasn't relevant. So it could be a hit or miss with that being said. As long as you keep it up to date and you're able to explain gaps, if you choose to leave things out, that's perfectly fine. But I put every role that I had, like my internships in college, then my current role, I would put that if I were applying for another job. So like anything that's relevant and like persistent. If you were only at a role for 3 months and it wasn't a contract or an internship, definitely being able to explain that, that's important too, instead of leaving that out. So if you really didn't like the job and you have like a standard reason why, definitely include that in your resume because that's important for like job seekers too when they come across that question in an interview. Like, hey, why were you only at ABC company for a couple months? Like, honestly, I didn't like it there. I didn't vibe there well. More so like the structure. Like, if you have a great reason to back it up, keep it there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then on resumes, do you like see a lot of people with a special skills section? And if so, what are some of the special skills that a person can have on their resume that can enhance it?
Yeah, for sure. So I sit out of the engineering division.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the special skills would be either software based or certifications. Definitely, if you have the time on your hands now or you have the money to invest in an online course, that's definitely a great course of action just to enhance your skills and more so just develop yourself in your career. Um, Let me see, more so with like special skills. Like I love getting a resume and them having their hobbies or like volunteer experience on there because it tells you more about the candidate than the resume really does. Like, hey, they were an Eagle Scout or they were in the
Yeah.
knitting club in college. And as irrelevant as you yourself may think it is putting down your resume, whether it's for your first job or your last job, those things kind of they differentiate you from the rest of like applicants. So if I see someone applying with that, I'm gonna remember their resume. Like, oh, she likes to knit and ride horses on her
Mhm.
side. For hobbies, like that's something that really puts a face to the name.
Mhm.
So like that's definitely important. But like any skill, as long as it fits like what you're doing, or even if it's irrelevant, like if you put that there, like you have other things going on other work, like that's important.
Yeah. No, yeah, I want to go back to what you said about having time now to take an online course because that's kind of why I wanted to do this podcast because I know people have a lot more time on their hands now and there are so many courses being offered online that people can look into now that they have time. So like what are special skills that would stand out to you the most that someone can invest time in now? Like what kind of courses maybe would you recommend someone put their time into now?
So, not to be specific, but if you're
Mhm.
taking like, depending on no matter what industry you're in, if you're taking like core courses, like that's important. So, I recently took a course online for like effective compliance programs because I'm in recruiting, which like has to do with HR, but just to get a better understanding of like the HR role in my position.
Mhm.
So I took that recently. It was free and online. It was incredible. That was on like Coursera. So if
Mhm.
you're
Okay.
taking positions like that, there are a lot though. Like one of my partners sent out to our group chat like, "Hey guys, this is a free course right now, and it's for personal development." Like those things too, even just for yourself and to keep busy, keep your mind going right now. Like that's important, and that's also definitely a resume booster. But if we're
Yeah.
getting into specifics there, like depending on what industry you're in, there are
Right.
so many different courses available just to better your resume and better yourself in the long run.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like are there certain courses better for certain skill sets? You know, like if you're in technology, is it better for you to take, coding or something? Or,
Yeah, for sure. And like that also advances your knowledge on it, especially if you're an entry level student right now, you're fresh out of college. Maybe your internships don't align with what you're looking for. Having those even keywords on your resume, because that's what a lot of agencies and companies pull through when they're doing their either LinkedIn recruits or database recruits are those keywords. So having those keywords on it is important. You can find those in courses too. Like, hey, I complete if I'm a mechanical engineer and I'm an entry grad, I completed 2 courses in 2D and 3D design. Like that's awesome because that gives you some experience without the real life experience, and that's important. So if you have any like courses relevant to whatever job you want to go to, or like relevant to your major, or you're even just interested in it a little bit more, like definitely worth taking.
Yeah, because I was also gonna say, like, let's say you are in engineering, would it benefit you to look into courses such as photography? Would that be something that could help you out? So, like, regardless of your
Mhm.
profession, would it be like, weird to look into something like photography if you're in technology
No,
or language, or what do you think?
No, I definitely don't think so. And I think like that too, if I saw a candidate who took a couple of photography courses that pops up on their resume, that's awesome because they're going outside their comfort zone and they're looking into something that's not necessarily in their wheelhouse and they're trying it out, you know? So it could
Mm.
designate that they're a quicker learner or they like to pick up on new things. So when you're applying for that job, like, hey, I may not have all these necessary skills, but I'm a quick learner and I can be
Mhm.
on top of it. You know, just give me the time to learn because that's the biggest thing. Like you look at a job description and you have 4 out of 7 of the must-haves, but if you're able to explain the other three, or you have like a little bit of the other three, you just kind of need that chance. Like that's your time to prove it on your resume.
Mhm. And it could also show that you're like a go-getter too.
One
You
hundred
know.
percent, yeah. Or you have other interests that aren't just engineering or recruiting. Like there's other things out there, so definitely taking advantage of it. It's worth it.
Yeah, so definitely look into all the different types of courses and everything can help at this point.
Absolutely, especially if you have the time on your hands.
I know.
It's worth that.
Yeah, so I mean, online courses aren't necessarily for everyone. Some people don't think that they could focus within online courses. So, what are
Yeah,
some other ways people can use this downtime for personal development to help them?
yeah. Um, I'm one of those people. I'm like online courses are like,
Mhm.
nah, I did not
Yeah.
excel on them in college.
Right.
And now though, like the second quarantine hit, that's when I was like, wow, like I need something to better my time. So that's when
Mhm.
I got into courses. But if you're not that kind of like learner, hey, if it's reading a book or doing STEM projects that way, or just I'm trying to think of other industries, but if you're in finance and you're interested, like other than your day job or like accounting, and you're interested in stocks, get into stocks and like just
Mm.
try to develop it that way, like starting small and just developing a hobby even from that. Not even a course, like if you kind of see this more as a mindset, you can get farther with it.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea because it's not all about like just something that's on your resume. If you have personal development, I'm sure that you guys would look at that too. I mean, when you get in the interview, you could talk about your
For
personal
sure. And
development.
even the fact that, and that's something funny that we see. One of our candidates on his resume that he enjoys fixing cars in his downtime. And the hiring manager was like, "Oh, what kind of cars do you fix?" And they kind of got into a conversation over that. And he landed the job. And one of the biggest things was, "Hey, I vibed with the hiring manager. You know, like we have so much in common. Like he liked me for like not just my skills, but the person I am, because that's a huge thing too. Your resume at the end of the day can mean absolutely nothing if you do not mesh well with the company that you're applying for. So culture is a huge fit there as well. And that's something that often gets overlooked.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of people would not think to put that on their resume, something like that. But that is like a talking point when you think about it.
Definitely a talking point. And especially, I mean, when I was looking for college and whatnot, like in applying places, I never looked into culture job. And I went on and I was like, I didn't like this position being offered. Like, I really didn't study the company, or, you know, like that is a huge thing too, especially with longevity in your career. If you want to grow in a career, you don't want to be at a place that makes you unhappy. So it's definitely something to look into as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people do have more time right now so that they could use that time to research companies that they're looking to apply for. So that could be a way that a person can use their downtime right now to enhance their job search. Is there any other way that they can maybe enhance their job search right now since they do have more time and they're not just clicking apply, apply, apply? So what else could they do with their downtime right now to enhance their job search?
For sure. And that's something very important too. If, say, you're interested in a company, for example, and you're on that website and you're applying every day to positions that aren't really your niche or like not going to be a good fit for you, but you want to get your name out there, do not do that because your name will keep popping up. But it's, hey, she applied for another irrelevant position, you know, like I don't think the seriousness of it is there. Like that's definitely something too, like narrowing down your search too. Hey, right now we don't know where the industry is turning, and that's a shame. You know, it's tough. It's really tough times we're in, but knowing what you want is so important. So with that, hey, you have all this time on your hands. Make an Excel sheet of companies you're really interested in working for, you always wanted to work for, or even industries, and kind of research what different industries there are and what you want to get into. Make that list, narrow it down by doing your research on those companies, and from there, keep applying, you know.
Yeah. So after someone does that research, what sites do you find most beneficial when recruiting candidates? Like, what sites would you recommend people job search through? Because there are so many out there.
There are so many out there. A big struggle I see with candidates, like, hey, I applied for this job through Indeed or LinkedIn and nobody ever got back to me. Like, what's the deal with that? A lot of times with these postings, they'll go on Indeed or LinkedIn and they're either older postings that never got deactivated or it's going straight into somebody's like inbox. There's one person monitoring it. It's hard to keep up with it. Or if they see you and you're not a good fit, they'll just move past you. There's no kind of common courtesy there. And that's where it gets tough. And especially when applying for jobs, you burn out that way. So my biggest thing is if you're not going through a recruiter for things, apply directly. If you apply directly to the positions and like in their thing, instead of over Indeed or LinkedIn or Monster even, you have a way better chance of hearing back from them, whether it's positive or negative. But at the end of the day, you have an answer, and that's all you could really ask for there.
I know, because a lot of times you don't get an answer when you apply on those websites.
No, not at all. My brother actually, he recently went through this applying for new jobs and whatnot. Applying on Indeed and whatnot. Nothing got through. And he started applying directly and he started hearing answers and now he's employed. So good success story there. Yeah,
I know. I love that.
So
You
we'll
know,
take
I,
it.
I know. So after so you say apply directly and they do get an interview, let's say, but they don't get the job. So what are some reasons certain candidates are not selected?
I think one of the biggest things is how you present in an interview. And that doesn't necessarily mean what you're wearing, but how you carry yourself. Like body language is so important. Making eye contact is important. Not necessarily, everyone says, the handshake's most important. It's not. But how you present yourself during the interview. If you have clear and precise answers, kind of by reading the job description, obviously you have to take that with a grain of salt sometimes. But hey, I read through the job description. I know how to answer these questions. A lot of people get nervous or tense when they're in an interview.
Yeah.
And I face the same struggle. But the biggest thing is, hey, what do you have to lose? Go in there, answer the questions to your best of your ability. Like smile is a huge thing. And kind of just be comfortable in it. They can sense that you're uncomfortable. They're probably not the most comfortable either with everything going on. Like you don't want to tell, or like if someone's not gonna fit, like things like that. It can be uncomfortable for both parties. But hey, what do you have to lose? Like go in there, give it your all. As long as you're well prepped for the interview, you have a great chance of winning.
Yeah, and be yourself at the end of the day, right?
Be yourself, 100%. A lot of people, they go into it thinking they have to act a certain way or, and you don't. At the end of the day, they want to see who you are as a person. If you have like I said before, if you have all these skills to back it up, but like you wouldn't be a good cultural fit, it's a good thing you're not hired at the end of the day because you won't see the longevity in that role. You'll be there short term if you're not happy.
No, exactly. And then if you're not yourself in the interview, at the end of the day, like if you get the job and you have to keep acting for the rest of the job, like no, you want to make sure you're yourself from the beginning, right?
Exactly. Show who you are and then what you do, and then that'll come with it eventually.
I know. And I know earlier you were saying how we don't know where industries are going to end up right now. So we don't know. So what are positions do you find that are actually hiring right now based on the climate?
So all of our government agencies are still hiring. Our aerospace companies are also still hiring. And then a lot of our companies within the medical device or like the medical culture, they're still hiring as well.
Okay. Good idea. So for the places that are still hiring and for people that are actively applying right now, what are some tips you would suggest for someone who is preparing to apply or preparing for an interview?
For sure. For preparing for an interview, I always tell someone to print out their resume beforehand, and then go through it and match it up to the job description. You're reading the job description, you have to have A, B, and C. Locate, or like any must-haves, locate them on your resume and highlight them. I always tell everyone to approach it with a highlighter test, just so you know exactly what talking points to speak to with your resume. I've only had like 3 or 4 jobs on my resume, so it's easier, like whereas other people have 10 to 15, like a lot more extensive. With that being said, narrow it down. Hey, these are these even industries, that's where industries come into play too. I worked at this industry, which is similar to the company that is doing the hiring right now that I'm applying to. Like, how do my skills stack up against other people? So knowing exactly, like going into the interview by looking at your resume, what strong points you have, and kind of turning the conversation over to them instead of letting your resume talk through the conversation. If that makes sense. I kind of worded that wrong. And then long day. But then for applying to jobs, kind of, hey, look out at the competition. If they say there's companies hiring at LinkedIn, check another website, make sure, and if you can, and they have the postings up internally, apply there instead of LinkedIn or Indeed. You have a much higher % chance of getting an email back or a phone call back for an interview.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think you definitely provided some great insight for my listeners, how to use their downtime right now too to maybe land the job they want or enhance their resume or take up a special skill. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, just have confidence when you're going into interviews. That will carry the conversation itself. If you go in there feeling confident about the role, confident about yourself, like they can sense that, you are the energy you're putting out there. And a lot of times right now with everything going on, it's going to be like Skype or WebEx calls and conversations. So best practices around that, having good body posture, like sitting up straight in an interview, making eye contact with the screen itself. I know it sounds silly, but
It's harder. And I think it's harder.
So much harder.
Yeah.
100%, like virtual interviews, but like that's going to be the wave right now. So kind of just doing that and like connecting early, getting on there early so you don't have to face technical difficulties. So
Exactly. That's a good point to bring up.
there's a lot of things that go with that.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up that I think some people don't think about right now, is that a lot of the interviews could be virtually.
Yeah. So with that too comes like checking your lighting, making sure your interview space around you is neat and tidy. Like there's like a lot of cases like that, And then like, hey, it's an online interview. It's almost like a open book test. You can have your resume right out in front of you. Glance down occasionally and catch yourself. Or if you're not feeling confident in a question asked, glance down at your resume and look at the highlighted sections and be like, no, I'm strong here, and that'll match up to that question.
Oh, that's some good advice. Well, that was definitely some good advice for my listeners right now to embrace their downtime. And I mean, it's hard right now for a lot of people, especially if you're looking for a new job or something. So I think this was some good information for them. And I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast as a guest today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun doing this.
Yes, thank you. I might have to have you on again in the future when maybe if we're ever back to normal and we could give some tips on in-person interviews.
Exactly. We will be soon, so I'm having hope.
Yes. Well, thanks, Kelly.
No problem, Katie. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. You really have to make yourself stand out and show that you're unique in a sea of candidates. Kelly talked about some things a lot of people don't think about, like adding an objective to your resume and even adding some hobbies to your resume. You never know when you might share the same interest or hobby as the person who is interviewing you for the job. Having any sort of special skill makes you stand out regardless of the position you're applying for. Don't be afraid to try something new, especially now when you have downtime. As Kelly mentioned, what do you have to lose? Use this downtime during COVID-19 to self-reflect and put your time towards a hobby or a skill that can enhance not only your career, but also your personal development. With that being said, this concludes another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. Don't forget to subscribe and follow the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you could rate and review us on iTunes, that would be awesome. Thank you again for tuning into Millennial Debt Domination. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.